Okay, well, welcome to the keynote of this afternoon. I'm of course very honored. There are so many people here. That is really nice. Because what I sense today is optimism. I mean, you are all full of ideas and creativity, and optimism is exactly, I think, what Greece needs right now. So you guys are making the future, especially the students among you. You are the most important here, of course, because, yeah, you built the city of the future. I have been asked to talk about light, and I really like to do that. So thank you, Christina, and the whole group that has prepared this day so well. But I think I should say a few things beyond light about innovation and how people could work together to speed things up. And I also want you to say lots of things. So during the break we were struggling with the computer system because I wanted to introduce some live polling, I would call it, where you use your own telephone to join the conversation, and what you write will appear on the screen here. It is working, but it is a little bit improvised, but it is working. So your voice will be heard, and I really ask you, if you have a telephone that has internet, the instructions will come on the screen. Please join us. It's really important for all of us in the room that we have this dialogue together. So what is the meaning of innovation? Well, last week I was at a business conference in Chicago and somebody said innovation is an idea plus commerce. I had never looked at it that way, but yeah, thinking about it, it's not at all such a bad description actually. Innovation is an idea, invention, plus commerce, bringing it to market. And not just to make money, but also because only once people start using your inventions, you actually get some information back. And that information that you get in return, that you get back from the users, is actually what you need in order to make version 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. So maybe that is the meaning of innovation. These people, they make something, and they probably make something very important, or they do it really well. But if one of them has an idea how to improve something, how to innovate something, then they were never really heard. They just had to assemble that product, for example, a Philips factory in the 30s or something like that. And they were really not heard. And then much later, let's say the past decade or so, we had something that we call the maker movement. And those of you who are associated with IAC in Barcelona, I understand there's some people here. I think Vicente in Barcelona has an idea about the maker movement and how it can accelerate cities. If at every corner of the streets there is a shop where you can do 3D printing, it becomes really easy to be an industrial designer, to invent something and to make it and to commercialize it, to bring it to users. And then you get feedback about how it's used and you make it better. And that is innovation. So I would call that do-it-yourself. Yeah? From a designer you become a maker. And suddenly you are empowered and you can actually generate income, and you become an economy, a small one, but you are one. And all the other makers in the city make an urban economy at a scale which is very good for the city because it happens inside that city society. But there is something else going on also. If you really want to be faster with your innovations, like what we try to do at Philips, for example, and we're not so good at it yet because we are a big company, so we are slow. It takes us maybe a year to develop a product. Well, that's a bit silly because every 3 months there is a new type of LED on the market. So if we then start thinking for 1 year about what to do with it, it's, you know, you're always a little bit delayed. So we thought about how to improve that, and we think that do-it-yourself is becoming do-it-together. So it's from DIY to DIT. do-it-yourself becomes do-it-together. And these guys are probably of very different background. There might be a technologist, a designer, a journalist, and maybe a techie or a software programmer. You know, there might be very different backgrounds coming together, and in this case around a 3D printer as a nice example. But innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. So innovation happens where different brains and minds come together, and when it becomes a meeting of minds and a meeting of hearts, maybe even. And then you can really go fast and very meaningful. So if you want to write about it and you have a Twitter account, I didn't hear about any hashtag. I know there is the _before_light handle. But I've introduced this hashtag and I've been tweeting a little bit this morning, so why don't you join? And let's call this Athens Light, because I like this to be about Athens, really. Although we are a very international audience, this is a city that really needs, you know, an optimistic boost of energy. So when you go into that do-it-together, there are some different worlds that get suddenly synthesized, that are traditionally separate. There is commerce, trade, business on the left-hand side. In the middle there is play and leisure. And on the right-hand side there's education. And these three worlds are traditionally not so well connected. But in Amsterdam we start a Center for Metropolitan Innovation, which is deliberately a collaboration between almost these three worlds. You know, a university and a big high-tech company or something like that. And we learn from it that innovation happens much faster and more meaningful when you connect these worlds. And this do-it-together sort of ambition is exactly doing just that. It connects business with play and education, and something really special then can suddenly happen. So this is the time, I think, to get your phone and join us. You go to this web address. You can do that now. And the questions that I will ask you, they will also come on the screen, which I'm going to improvise, as I said. And if you are not connected to the internet, you can still send an SMS. You have then to send one message now with my name in it, and then you will be logged onto my system. And then for the next questions that come up, you don't need to do that anymore. You just send your answer to that phone number. But I guess since there is free Wi-Fi in the building, most of you have a phone that can connect. And I'm looking forward to our chat this way. So this will appear on the next few slides, also smaller, in case you don't have time. I like to move on. Yeah, so here is the address. And that means Paul everywhere, by the way. So the example that I wanted to give you is the city of Sevilla. And again, I said this is not about light, but I think this is such a nice example. There's a square there, and it's not going well. And people don't want to live there. And small shops disappear. There is a bit of crime around the corner. When you go to the square, you just walk fast across because you don't like to stay there. And then suddenly an architect decides to make an intervention, and you see it a little bit here. And he calls it the Metropole Parasol. And a parasol makes a pleasant climate, literally, but in this case also as a big metaphor, because this single architectural intervention has completely transformed this square. We were there 2 times in the past year, and it was just as vibrant as it gets. And there's shops around, and all the homes are being renovated, and there's lots and lots of people underneath and also on top. And this is made from a do-it-together perspective. This is engineering plus design plus urbanism plus styling plus. It would not have been so meaningful if any of these disciplines would have been absent. And I think that is really important to realize, guys, that something like this is not just the brainchild of one person. It's even more impressive when you look at it from the air. It's a big sunshade, and it's made out of wood. It's even very applicable to talk about it in the light of 3D printing, because all of these members are different. None of them is the same. That would have been unaffordable in the past, but now with digital fabrication techniques, such things become very accessible. Because if you need to make 1,000 members out of wood, and they're all identical, then it will cost you so much. But if they're all different, it will cost you the same almost, because of digital fabrication techniques. So digital fabrication is going from data to things. And that is exactly what we try in the city also. Anything you read about smart cities is about data, big data, collection of data. And you know, yesterday with Christina, we drove back from the airport and we said to each other, yeah, you know, all this data, but who is doing something meaningful with it, right? What is happening with all this big data? How can we put it into the design process in a way that is relevant for those designers and for what they make? How can it be data, but how can it be not about data? Well, it's about thinking very hard about how data translates into things, like the Metropole parasol, because that's data-based design. It's digital fabrication. And these things generate new data and so forth and so on. And a great example is, of course, the International Space Station that you can see here. What to do if a part breaks down over here? You can order it, but you have to wait until the next mission for it to be delivered, right? Well, hopefully it's not very vital to the functioning of the space station. So what happens now is they just send from the Earth a data file. And the guys in the space station, they 3D print the part. And they can continue doing what they were doing, which is very expensive time. So it's huge value being created there. So that's the value of this do-it-together movement and of digital fabrication. In the past, it was a little bit different. This is a photograph from a Philips laboratory, and this guy is creating a lamp, and he does that, as you can see, alone. And that was, of course, the norm. It would take quite long, and it would be very secret and protected. And it's nothing specific to Philips. Every technology company used to work like that. You try to hide what you're doing so you can protect it. And then you go to market when it's patented, and you'll make money for a long, long time. Because if you would make a good lamp for use in street lights or in stadium lights, the life cycle of it would be 30 to 40 years. You know, the technologies invented in the 70s, they still are used every day in cities. Metal halide lamps, ceramic discharge lamps, and that sort of things. And the incandescent bulb, by the way, the normal lamp, it has not been innovated for over a century. So today, a lamp is not a lamp anymore. And innovation has therefore completely changed in lighting. If you take a look at this, I like this really as an example. Although it's not so well visible, I think everybody knows here in the room which brand of car this is, right? It's Audi, isn't it? Yeah, so how do you know? Well, you know because of the light. Because these eyebrows, as I like to call them, are very specific to that brand. They are of incredible value to that brand. In the beginning, when they just launched this as a feature, the price was €2,500 extra to get it on your car. And they were surprised how many people wanted to have it. But do you know why? Because when you drive this car, then everybody who is coming, you know, towards you sees that you are driving an Audi. You know, you are a big guy, you are rich, you are whatever you are, right? It's an extension of your identity, or at least of what you would like to be. That's how it works with design. It's worth €2,500 for those guys. Okay. Now it's standard, by the way, on each and every Audi. But you know, if I show you that this is the ingredient of this, and that we need 34 of them on both sides, that gets really surprising when I tell you that the cost price of this is 30 cents, or 28 cents, or something like that. So the value that the designers created by really understanding the psychology of the driver, the aesthetics of the design, the technology, by bringing that all together, that was a real innovation. And the commerce, of course. The value for Audi is incredible. And Philips could have sold just the LEDs, but it would not have been so valuable for the company as really creating these eyebrows together with Audi. It's much more valuable. Do it together. So here is once more the hashtag. And now I think let's take a look at what this means for cities. Well, magazines like this, they publish lists of the best cities in the world to live in, the most livable cities, you know. And Monaco is actually quite authoritative. So here it says the quality of life checklist. Okay, what does that really mean? You know, which cities are the ones that they pick? Well, they pick cities like Copenhagen or, they pick cities like Copenhagen or Helsinki, or they pick cities like, I don't know, Vancouver is always in the top of the list, right? So these are cities with relatively little problems. These are nice cities with a perfect location on a lake that is clean or close to the mountains, but still having a lot of room. Or, you know, these are manicured cities. They are, yeah, manicured. They are very well planned. That's great, but how about all these billions of people who live in cities that are not like that? How can we make a livable city for them? That is my question for today. I don't have the answer, but perhaps we can find it together. So what I'm going to do now is, hopefully, I put the question on the screen. Look, we do it like this. And now it's going to appear on your phone. And you can answer, and then hopefully your answers appear on the screen. So a livable city means for me, and we give you 1 minute or so. Yeah? I don't know. I hope it works. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to skip it from now on. You see, there are 30. There we go. Funny. Okay. Yeah, you see. I don't know how expensive beer is in Vancouver, actually. Smiley faces, fun places to go. It's a lot about recreation, and it's a lot about happiness. And it's a lot about people who enjoy it. There's somebody serious in the room at least. Okay, well, that's good. Okay. There's a lot of fun in your answers. Yeah. You know what is not so nice? That they disappear, actually. I have no idea if I can change that. But since we are fiddling anyways, so no worries, it's coming back. You see? Ooh. Some are more important than others, right? Okay. So, eye contact of the citizens, I think that is one for lighting, right? In the evenings, how do you light your city? I give you some technical tip. Our lighting typically comes from the top and it goes down, right? Now, you will not see faces like that. So why, when you plan your lighting in your cities, why don't you try to do more horizontal illumination? I mean, like this. And then you will actually satisfy one of the people in the audience who says eye contact with citizens is important. Simplicity, that was somebody of Philips, I'm afraid. People that are happy residents. Okay, there's a lot of happiness here in the room. Well, that's great. We have 44 participants, and I think we move back to my presentation. Okay, so did you like that? Yeah, then I do it a few more times. Okay, well, this is big data, and I don't know how to make chocolate out of this, right? What to do with it? Actually, this is people checking into Foursquare or something like that, and then where they move to, and things like that. But if you look up the Foursquare website, you get a lot of these animated things, and it's actually very interesting to see. It's also interesting to realize that we don't like ID cards and stuff like that, you know, but we really like to give all our details into the social media. That is something that keeps on surprising me. So, something to think about. Right, free Wi-Fi, that's also something that we always hear in meetings. Yeah, let's do free Wi-Fi and we solve the smart city challenge, right? I don't think it is about that really. I think it will not take long and everybody is connected anyways. There's at least 45 people connected in this room. What I think is more important is that we engage you and that you as designers engage everybody in the city. For example, by promoting cycling. I heard a wonderful talk of Jan Geel, the architect and urbanist, and his bicycle plan in Copenhagen. And he has one simple objective, which is get more people on the bicycle, and he can talk about it for 2 hours. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. He says, yeah, it gives me just such a great view on all the beautiful girls in the city on the bicycles, and it is just great because when you cycle, you go fast enough to be somewhere fast, but still slow enough to see everything, and it's good for health. So I asked somebody how it reduces healthcare cost, and that is like billions per year. It's a fantastic story, but it is first of all very engaging. Here in Paris, it's a little bit more challenging, of course. I was so proud when I cycled this roundabout that I wanted to have a picture of myself, and I was 17, and I cycled there all the way from Amsterdam, and I gave my camera to a Parisian guy and said, can you please take a picture? He said, yes, of course, and he ran away with my camera. That was my first experience in France. Right here, she was luckier, obviously, and I was not wearing a helmet, by the way, because I'm from Holland. This is, of course, very engaging, street food and stuff like that, you know. Of course, friendships that happen in the public space. You know, Lenny Schwendinger, the lighting designer who does a lot in public space, she said, you know, lighting in public space is really for sanity. It's for your mental sanity. And I asked her, what do you mean? She said, well, because it really invites people to go out and meet others. And if you don't do that, you just go mad, don't you? And I just had to agree, yes, if you don't meet other people, you just go mad. So what we do, extending the time that the public space can be used in a meaningful way, is good for mental health. Don't forget it. So this is in Amsterdam, also very engaging. In the summer it's a fountain, in the winter we go skating. And yeah, you showed a campfire, and I had one in my slide deck. I liked yours better, actually. But it is really about that very special thing that light does. It brings people together. It brings them together around the light source, and you open up and tell your stories and sing your songs and what have you. Well, what is then the contemporary campfire? I think that is maybe a good question. Well, this is a lighting design, I call it, some people call it an artwork in Zurich. It's not this. This is the tram that comes by when I took the photo. But it is this. Yeah, these are 200 rods and or even more. They are 7 meters long, and they run all the way from the train station to the lake, which is like more than a kilometer. And there are pixels in there, and they can actually create patterns of light. So that is, in a way, it has the function of the campfire. It creates a space, and I mean, it's not just illumination of the city, is it? Look at this. So, okay, well, so that brings me to my next question for you guys, and here we go again. Okay, don't answer this one. I have to click here. Okay. And now I have to push it to your phone. That's this button. Okay, and I'm asking you what you think light in the city is actually about. Now, you can choose, it's for safety and for efficiency. It is something that brings color. And you can take that also maybe metaphorically. It's about storytelling, it's about poetry, it's about imagination. And why they go down is because these are percentages in the audience. They're not absolute numbers of participants. So, I believe at least. Is that right? Oh, the scale changes. Ah, they are absolute numbers. Okay. Well, most of you are very imaginative, I understand, and have a lot of fantasy, and you have your hobby is that you write poems, I think, or something like that. At least there are some people who say, no, well, it's also about safety, right? And about good illumination, of course. And there is just one who tries to be funny and says, what do you mean, light in the city? You're in the wrong conference, I think, but okay. Well, I mean, this is a little bit what I expected, given the creative background of everybody here. I go back to my slides. Oops, Christina just told me this. Here, and I give you an example. Okay, this is called Traveling Sand, and it is as poetic as it gets. It's Jeannie Vos, and I made it for her, but it's really her work. She's a visual artist, light artist maybe, but I just learned that you're not supposed to say that maybe. And this is a wall in front of the train station, and there is like 1.5 million LEDs in there, and they make dunes out of sand. This town is built on sand. It's not in the desert, it's in Holland. It's called Apeldoorn. It's built on sand. And these dunes are generated with mathematical algorithms that pretty much plot sinuses on this wall. And it's just glass panels with pixels behind. But very, very pretty. When we see media facades, normally it is not so poetic. Look at this. In the daytime, this is winter. There's even a bit of snow on those trees, it seems. And then here, a close-up, and the cyclists can go into this little tunnel, and they find their bicycle parking under this train station. And here you can clearly see that the trains run there. And this is a very strange public space, right? This is 4 meters or more, and it's just like a cut in the urban landscape almost. But she used it in a very wonderful way. In the evening, and it's never the same. There's no pre-programmed scenes. It's mathematics, you know. And do you like it? Yeah, me too. I love it. Look, there's one more picture of it. Great. A large urban monument, and at the same time, I realized that the world is changing. I just dump here what is on my mind, right, when I do my designs. And I realize all the time the world is changing. I mean, look at this picture. This is Guangzhou. And I realized that, I don't know, 10 years ago, this was all not there, you know. It's incredible how fast that changed. And I was there to light up this guy here where the arrow is. And that was at that time the second tallest structure in the world. It's a few years ago, but they built very fast in Asia, and others are now a little bit taller. But it's still 640 meters. That's not like just a little bit for a building, right? And we lit it, and we had to think about it. Okay, the client wanted something like with big uplights. Well, how do you reach 640 meters with an uplight, you know? But they don't think about that. They just say, we want it to be uplit. But why? Because that's macho, and it's strong, and it's, you know, it's impressive, and it's like the Audi headlights, more or less, the same feeling. And we said, well, maybe we should do something else, and this is a bad photograph, but maybe we should illuminate it from inside. So instead of the city blasting the energy onto the tower in adoration, maybe the tower gives its energy and its flow to the city. So we turned it around, and then they said, well, that's actually a very beautiful metaphorical idea. Yeah, so in the spirit of the last poll and your opinions about what it really is, lights in the city, it's about the metaphor. If you want it to be relevant, it has to be. Well, this is a rendering of it. There it looks even bigger. And then this is, I think, a nice image. The colors are a bit, well, Chinese, I would say, but we wouldn't do that so easily, right? In Holland, we are too down to earth for that. But it's not bad. It can take any color, of course. This is really nice, because here you get to see, although you're inside, you get to see how the thing is done. And it's a sort of grazing light on these big columns. These are big columns, aren't they? Yeah. And they make up this whole skeleton. It's called an exoskeleton. Skeleton on the outside of the tower. And then when you're inside, you wander around. There's nothing else to do, by the way. It's not a commercial building. It's only meant to broadcast television. But then you just enjoy the view, if there's not too much smoke. And the tower is standing there and giving its energy to the city. This is a really interesting photograph. I wonder if anybody sees why I think this is so interesting. Yeah, do you see him? Do you see him? Yeah? He's walking outside, 430 meters above the ground. He's walking outside. It's Bob. It's my best friend. I told him, put on that lifeline. Don't forget it. You know, but he is fanatic about focusing, and these are the lights, and he just focused them. And this was at the day of the opening. We took the photograph, and it's funny because I saw him only on the photo when I was back home a week later. Amazing. Okay, this is not Bob, but this is a Chinese builder on the same building when it's under construction. It gives you a good sense of, I wanted to say of the size of the columns, but of the, I mean of the health and safety in the Chinese building industry, of course. But yeah. Okay, so, okay, a widescreen means that there is another question for you. I hope you are enjoying that. Okay. I need to put the next poll on the screen, and then I push it to your phone. You know the procedure now. There you go. So you are free to answer what the future is of light in our city, and why not to take Athens as an example. Okay, 17 hours ago, that was me testing the system. That's not necessarily my opinion. Okay, dark skies, that's a good one. Yeah, there is the dark sky association, right? The International Dark Sky Association. And have you ever seen a really dark sky? It is almost scary, right? So many stars. It's amazing. We were once upon a time in Death Valley, and there the skies are dark, and in Arizona. And it's pretty amazing. There are a few places on Earth where it's so dark. Wireless, you didn't listen 5 minutes ago. Okay, transformation, yeah, this is a rather conceptual screen. No light pollution, hopefully, very good. Controlize, that's a new word for me. Interactive, light without seeing the light. That's also a very interesting one. The German physicist Hermann von Helmholtz of the 19th century, he studied extensively the perception of light, and he said humans discard the illuminant. The lamp. Humans discard the illuminant. His assumption is that by eliminating the lamp, the light source, from the picture that you see, from your environment, you discover actually everything else. Because the light from that light source reflects and gets absorbed and gets color before it's passed on into your eye. So by discarding the illuminant, the light source, you actually discover the environment around you. It's a very nice statement, and we can debate afterwards, because you mentioned James Turrell, right? James Turrell says, I use light as if it were matter. I use light as if it were matter. Yeah, as if it is substance, something I can hold in my hands. Where von Helmholtz says, well, we just discard it, and in return we get back the environment. It's very interesting. And when you take a look at Turrell's images, I think they actually mean the same. They just say it in different words. So, is it interesting what you see on the screen? Yeah. Okay, well, then I put there something else. That's not a problem for me. Hope okay. All right. So maybe this is the future of our cities. I mean, we submitted this for a design competition for CERN, the nuclear particle acceleration institute thing in Switzerland. And we were hoping to realize a kind of an interactive space, some sort of a flexible city, like an environment that can change based on your needs, an elastic city, if you like. Well, we didn't win. That happens. They said it's too challenging. We said, why? I mean, it's a concept. And I think pride is actually the next topic to address. So if you want the city to be successful and livable, whatever you design, it has to be embraced by its people. That's very obvious. I think the tower in China was actually a good example. The decision not to light it from the city, but instead to let it radiate onto that city, makes people connect so much easier with the object and be so much more proud of it. You know, if it would have been aggressively lit, then somebody would have said, well, you know, instead of that 120 million euro that went into the tower, why don't we build a sewage system or something like that? There's nothing that you can say against that. But now the city of Guangzhou has got a tower to be very proud of. That is positive because it radiates energy. It's positive. It's an optimistic symbol. It's a symbol for the ambition of the city. And it's not a symbol of just one owner who wants to be in the spotlights. It's for everyone. It's about pride. This is not to be proud of when you live in Ho Chi Minh, you know. This, on the other hand, you could feel proud of. This is a hotel in Abu Dhabi with a very ephemeral glass and light kind of skin. This is a building not to be proud of. It looks ugly and terrible, even though it's a luxury department store. We transformed it and we made it this. That's the same building. And now it's a building to be proud of, to the extent that people make photos of themselves and with that building, post it on Facebook, and just be really excited about what is happening in their city. This is a building, I think, a structure to be very proud of. It's a sculpture almost, but you can actually use it. It's not only to look at, it's a sculpture that is beautiful, but you can also cross the water with it. It's a bridge. And this is something which is a private corporate office that decides to do something in the window to contribute just to the streetscape at night, for everybody. For everybody just to enjoy. I think when you live in that neighborhood, you can be proud. You know, that there is a corporation that just, you know, that spends at least some of its effort on making that neighborhood a little bit more interesting. So, pride, and I write down the word less, because I think it's an important word. And I really enjoy that some of you said, make it darker, you know, mind the light pollution, because that is, of course, what I mean. This is the default solution. If you don't think about it, and you make a motorway, and you look up the code, and you do what it says, then you get this. Okay? I think that lighting should not be considered anymore just the default solution for everything. Yes, it does make safety, but it doesn't mean that darkness is never safe. Yes, it does make comfort, but it doesn't mean that darkness is not comfortable. You see what I mean? I think we should move our brain and come up with lighting that is also rooted in an appreciation of darkness as something very natural, important, and good. Yeah, thanks to darkness, we can sleep. Thanks to darkness, our melatonin levels go up and we get relaxed and we fall asleep and we get up healthy again. It's an essential part of our lives. So, you answered already partly, but I'm going to put the next poll on the screen and see what you think about it. Here it is. The beauty of darkness is, well, that I don't see anything ugly in the city anymore. There is somebody saying that, okay, that there is more light, because light and darkness cannot be without each other. Do you understand that? Like, if you would have no darkness, would there be any light? In the meantime, just answer. If there's no darkness, would there be any light? I don't think so. You try to put more light and it becomes just a competition. Okay, some people think it is sustainable. Well, that is true. The most energy-saving lamp is the one that is switched off. I think that's a fair point. Yeah. But the common, I think, understanding here in the room is that light and darkness cannot be without each other. And I think that's a really beautiful and rich view on the topic. Well, thank you for joining so far. We have a few more slides to go. I love this picture because it's very dark. This is Svalbard, the northernmost settlement in the world. Very symbolic, of course. A beautiful dark sky. And where it's really dark, you know, you get this, which is a phenomenal gift of nature, of course, to be able to see this. Yeah, these are star trails, because the guy who took the photo, Casper Stoholm, he opened the lens for a long time, and he tracked the stars that way. Okay, back to the cities. Well, you all know that the vast majority of people will live in cities, and especially in the big cities. and not in the ones that are consistently ranked most livable. So, what are we doing with that information? Well, I think that we have to connect people to that city. A city is beautiful to everybody who can connect to it, because then you're proud. I love Amsterdam, besides all its shortcomings. You know, yes, our home is small. Yes, it's in a building that, you know, maybe needs renovation. Yes, I cannot park my car in front of my house because I live in a historic district. Yes, it always rains. Why do I then love it so much? Why do I not want to move? You know, because I can somehow connect with that place. I am Amsterdam. And the city did something really smart and built the global marketing campaign around this thought. And they called it I Amsterdam. And you can see here this sculpture, and it pops up in various places in the city. If you've been to Amsterdam, you've seen it. And what do people do with it? They really connect with it. They try to climb it. They take photos of it. They have fun with it. Occasionally one falls down, then it's not so lucky. But, you know, still you'll have an experience in Amsterdam of climbing this and taking pictures with the logotype. There are people who make their fashion styling, what is it called, report for magazines in these letters. There's all kinds of things happening. And we have translated that idea of connecting with the people into a light festival, which is called Amsterdam Light Festival. And you heard something about it just before from Tamar and her beautiful archway over the water, which I think is a brilliant proposal. And that's also why it, of course, will be staged in the festival. But the festival was meant to do everything that I have addressed so far, to connect with people, to make them proud of that city, to celebrate the darkness also, by doing very small things. You know, last year, it was a lot about darkness. We had a big work, and I can show it maybe. No, I will tell you what is that. We had a big work, but the light level of it was so low that it just became a cloud. You know. Well, this is preparation of one of the main artworks, which is going to be a wireframe three-dimensional drawing floating above the river, which is coated with a sort of reflective paint, I think. And here you can see how they are making that. I thought it would just be funny to see. This was last year, Janet Eckelman and her cloud, which is really not so much lit. And I think it's a celebration of light, but also a celebration of darkness. There is Kurt Vermeulen with his egg. And this is an artist group called Blauwe Uur, with a beautiful work, I think, that was interactive. As a viewer, you could change this, not just the colors, but also just make things disappear. And they were tricking your eye. Very inspiring. And even smaller scaled objects with just one light source and a very smart application of shadow and light really celebrated, you know, that the two cannot do without each other. This was in the Botanical Garden, a very small work. And this is for the coming year. Yeah, they are working on the realization of this. It is very ambitious, I think. You should really come and see it in order to really see, to really discover what it is. We were really thrilled because this tower basically doesn't exist anymore. And of course, we also experiment with projection, but instead of just the obvious things, the artists that are doing this, they team up with the museum inside this building, and they connect with the exhibitions that are there. So it's all about connecting, engaging organizations as well as people, you know, really constantly trying to understand how does this festival relate to the place where it is. Well, this is not in Amsterdam. I could have told you it's in Amsterdam, but it's in Toulouse. But this object we lit in Toulouse. It's the Fly's Eye Dome of Richard Buckminster Fuller. I guess you recognize it. It's about 17 meters diameter. It's very beautiful. And we bring it to Amsterdam. We think it's such an icon of what architecture stands for. Sustainable, smart, inventive, human. beautiful, you know, that we just wanted to bring it to the Light Festival. And if you know Amsterdam, we're going to put it right in front of Central Station, so 500,000 people will see it every day. I think that's very cool. So from collecting information, do it together, and engaging to delivering your design. That is the story of the Light Festival, and I introduced the 5 people to you who are the judges over there. Not because I'm very proud that they are our judges. I am very proud, of course, but really because it shows how we see light in the city. Because Maze, he is a choreographer, a very famous one in Holland. And Tracy, she's a journalist, and she's American. And Kevin, he's the president of the Association of Lighting Designers. So he is a more formal representative of a profession. And then myself and Vicente, he's a city architect from Barcelona. So these people come from different countries. And again, why do we do that? We do it to connect and to engage. We want to engage the media. We want to understand what urbanists think about it. We want to understand dance and performing art and the connection with the Light Festival. So that's why we do it like that. And I was wondering actually how you would do that. And if you're still not tired of it, why don't you join me for the next question, which is obviously about the Light Festival. In my city, if there would be a Light Festival, I think it would be, well, what would it be for you? So for us, it is really about the beauty, a celebration of urban space, rediscovering it as Amsterdammers, visitors. But we also see the economical contribution. We are an artistic team with the Light Festival, but we really see how it increases the number of hotel bookings, how people rent a boat, how they, after walking the Light Festival, go out for dinner. And we consider that all very important because that is engaging and that is about pride. It ticks all the boxes of what I just told you. So, and I started my talk about innovation, you remember? It's an idea plus commerce. So, in my view, I would vote for B actually, although I think it is also very beautiful. I would do D, of course. Yeah, of course. We would just agree, basically, this time. Very good. There are 53 participants. And definitely it's a venue for talent. And I can give you a tip. The way we do that, we have a couple very famous names. Richard Buckminster Fuller, Janet Ackerman, whoever. And we stage right next to them the emerging up-and-coming talent. And in all the media and publicity, we push them together. So that is really the way it works. And it's a tremendous opportunity for talent to be part of that way. Okay. Well, I show you a few more pictures of the Light Festival last year. This was made by my students. They are foreign students. They were fascinated by the number of bicycles that are dumped into the canal every year. That's an Amsterdam phenomenon. I don't know how many, but probably thousands, you know. The idea is that you just steal a bike and when you don't need it anymore, you dump it in the water. So that is more or less how it works. And they made, out of all these bikes, a sculpture and they made it luminous. So I think it's pretty cool. This is OVO, a very stylistic, aesthetic proposal with fog and very beautifully engineered out of wood, standing right in front of the Hermitage Museum. And then this is so unexpected, out of a completely unexpected corner of the world. Someone like Oprah Winfrey suddenly says, well, this is the #1 thing in the world that wows me. You know, 50 things that make you say, wow. #1, the Janet Ackerman at the Amsterdam Light Festival. I'm amazed. I don't think she was there, actually, but, you know, it doesn't really matter to her. This is knitted, right? This is a net. It's a fish net, and it's lit. And it is indeed, wow, you know, it is. It's large, and it's dramatic. It's ephemeral at the same time. And it does really wonderful with the historic backdrop. So, engage, pride, make it less, appreciate darkness, and team up. These are the things that I have addressed today. It's a very simple talk. Yeah? Do it together. Make everyone feel proud of what you deliver to the city. be proud yourself, of course. Make it less, appreciate darkness. And team up with outside your own discipline. If you are a lighting designer, find a journalist who wants to work with you. If you are an engineer, find a psychologist who wants to work with you. It's a great experience. And I want to show you one example which is completely out of city light, but you have to forgive me because I'm so happy with this project. In '97, I started working for the National Museum in Amsterdam, and it was closed for renovation. And we thought it would take 5 years or 6 years, very, very long. Well, it became actually more than that. It opened only this year on 8 April. So that's a long, long time. And at some point, we decided the halogen lighting that we have in mind, we can now be innovative. We can now replace it for digital lighting, and we have so many more possibilities. We can now make it all LED. And we started with this painting, which is a night watch. It's the most famous painting in the museum, and maybe one of the most famous ones in Europe. I always say you have to see the sunflowers, Vincent van Gogh. You have to see the Mona Lisa, the Scream, and the Night Watch. Then you sort of understand. Well, I'm sorry for the artists in the room, but to light this is incredibly challenging. There are very complex colors here, you know. There are warm tones and there's blue in the white to make it really white. Rembrandt was very smart about color. And he mixed all these pigments to create that depth. So when we first lit it with LED, it was very disappointing. But when we connected with the laboratory and had a new LED made that can render every color in such a painting, we got so excited. And we told them, give us more of these LEDs. And they said, well, we can make 16 of them. Okay, we said, okay, give us 16 of them, you know. And we hand-built 16 luminaires. And we could exactly light this whole painting because the power of each of these units is maybe 15 watt or so. And it's a big, big painting. It's nearly 4 meters. So we could barely light it. And we showed it to everybody who wanted to see it, press, museum people, designers, artists. And the #1 expert on Rembrandts in the whole world, Mr. van der Wetering, he wrote a letter and he said, well, you have brought the work considerably closer to its original. I couldn't understand it because I said, listen, it is the original. You know? But I know what he meant to say. What he meant is that suddenly the lighting revealed tones and hues and depth that you couldn't see before with the halogen lighting. This great this LED lighting is. And then we decided to do the entire museum with this spotlight. We built this product. It's very technical drawing, but I like it because it looks like a spaceship this way, right? Something like that. I like just this drawing. And we made all kinds of for other spaces, all kinds of products. This is Sjoerd. He's screwing together a big chandelier. And then you have to focus all these lights. And this is great because this is Tim. And Tim is the director of the museum, the head of presentations. And what is he doing here? He's focusing a light. And look at his face. He's concentrated. He loves it. Engaging, right? That was the spirit of my talk. And then it looks like this when it's finished. Go and see it. It's compulsory. It's beautiful. You know, look at this. Okay. And then in the atriums, there is this, that's public space, by the way. There is this acoustic stuff, you know, a big chandelier, I would call it. And when the sun shines, it looks like this, like a big gobo projector. For those of you in lighting, it's a gobo projector, right? It creates a texture. A beautiful sort of free gift from the sun, I would say. We don't have that much sunshine as you have here. So, it brings me to my last question. And then you are done, I promise you. Right? Actually, this is not too disturbing, is it? So, okay. So, what is the question? Urban Lightscapes, that's this conference today. What do you think about it? And I believe you can upvote or downvote what you see on the screen. I don't know what it looks like on your phone. But tell us what you think about today. You don't think anything, I understand. Outstanding, outstanding. That's very, very nice. Look, it got 0 votes. Now you can somehow vote for it. Maybe you can figure out how. I've never done it myself. You can somehow vote for these comments. There is a +1. That's very cool. I'm not sure how well it works. There is. Oh, okay. Inspiring. That's really good. Oh, there's a -1. Why is that? You're not inspired? Well, we won't give you your money back. You know, come on. To do it in reality. I think that is very important. When I prepared this talk, I also had a feeling I should tell you something pragmatic, you know. The theory is actually very essential, because if we don't understand what we're doing, then we're just doing something, you know. But since you guys all understand what you're doing, I wanted to give you some hints about how to team up and how to deliver something, and also give you a sense of how much I like experimentation. Like, you can try out. You can make a test bed here in the city and start tomorrow. You just call these guys here at the first row of Philips and tell them, listen, I need a few strip lights, you know. Is that possible or not? No? Maybe. Okay, it's possible. Yeah? You want to try something. You need a few products, you borrow them for a night, you take photographs, you go to your client, you make a great impression. That's how it works. And if it's wrong, it's not so bad. You just play until it works. Right? Seeing light differently. Can you guys read it in the back? It's too small, eh? Make the city alive. Hope for the cities. Well, that's great. A lot of these statements are very positive and optimistic, and that's what I already sensed here in the room. So, is it still going on? We have 57 participants now. Okay. Stilted. Make the city alive. Fusing past and future. That's a beautiful one. Who said that? Do you want to make yourself known? There in the back. Maybe you can tell us what you mean with it.
I was actually inspired by what you said about the Rembrandt thing. That it goes forward what the creator thought about it. So I think, for example, for a city like Athens, a very innovative light installation could bring forth, could actually capitalize on what the monuments and the culture of the city is about. Could make it more prominent.
And it could give these monuments another role in today's life.
Exactly.
Except being tourist attractions.
It could also engage people, because many of the monuments in the city right now are not actually engaged by the audience.
That's a great statement, I think. Thank you. Thanks. So I wrap up now, because I think time is up. I like to quote René Descartes, because he visited Amsterdam in 1630, and then he said, thinking about Amsterdam, he wrote to his friend and he wrote, a great city should be an inventory of the possible. So thank you very much for participating. You guys have been really great.